Welcome to my channel Starlight Sci-Fi Stories. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. The twin suns of VELYRA9 burned through thick crimson clouds, painting the royal citadel in the color of blood. The alien banners of the Xyrathi Empire waved in a heavy wind, each symbol telling tales of battles and victories, and one name echoed through them all: Queen Lysera, the untamed flame. She was a legend, beautiful beyond reason, deadly beyond measure. It was said that every suitor who stood before her either fled in fear or was reduced to ash, by her hand or her wrath. The empire had grown silent around her. Once filled with songs and laughter, the royal halls now echoed only with footsteps and whispers of fear. But today, something different stirred in the air. Something human. Milky Way, the crash far beyond the palace gates. A small human shuttle streaked through the violet sky, fire trailing behind it. Inside, Eli Turner, a ship mechanic from the Terran colonies, wrestled with the controls. "Come on, girl, hold together," he shouted, slamming a hand on the console. Sparks burst. Alarms screamed. The ship dipped lower, cutting across the cliffs like a comet. He barely managed to pull up before crashing through a supply yard near the palace wall. Metal groaned. Dust flew. Silence followed. Then Eli coughed, rubbing soot off his cheek. "Well," he muttered, "that could have gone worse." Before he could stand, a dozen armored guards surrounded him, weapons aimed. Their armor gleamed gold and black, alien runes pulsing faintly. "Human intruder," one barked, "you are trespassing on royal ground." Eli raised both hands, calm. "Yeah, sorry about that. My ship's allergic to gravity." Crossed swords. The audience. Within an hour, Eli found himself dragged through golden corridors into the grand throne hall. Columns of molten crystal reached toward the ceiling. The air shimmered with heat. And there she was, Queen Lysera, seated upon a throne of living flame. Her skin glowed faintly silver, her hair flowed like strands of liquid gold. Her eyes, sharp, molten, unblinking, watched him as if she could burn through his very soul. The courtiers whispered. No one dared breathe too loudly. The guard knelt. "Your Majesty, this creature claims his crash was an accident." Lysera leaned forward. Her voice was soft, but it carried the weight of command. "A human. The Terrans dare step on Xyrathi soil again?" Eli, still half covered in oil, shrugged. "Dare? No, ma'am. Crash? Definitely." A stunned silence followed. The court froze, waiting for lightning to strike. Lysera tilted her head slightly. "You do not kneel before your queen." Eli rubbed his neck. "I would, but my knees are already shot from crawling under engines all day." Someone gasped. A guard reached for his blade. But the queen raised her hand, stopping him. Her lips twitched. Just barely. Such insolence, and yet no fear. Eli smiled faintly. "Fear makes engines stall. I'm better without it." Lysera sat back, studying him like a puzzle piece that didn't fit. No one had spoken to her this way in years. Every suitor, every diplomat, every warrior, they trembled before her. But this one human, he just looked tired and mildly annoyed. The first trial later that day, the royal council gathered in whispers. The queen listened silently as they spoke. "Perhaps, Majesty," one said, "this human could amuse you. Test his courage as you did the others." Lysera's eyes glimmered with mischief. "Yes, let us see if his tongue burns as brightly as his arrogance." When Eli was brought before her again, the queen rose from her throne. Her armor shimmered like a sunlit storm. "You claim to have no fear, human," she said. "Then face my guard captain in trial. If you survive, you earn the right to speak freely." Eli frowned. "I fix ships, not fight monsters." Lysera smirked. "Then fix your mistakes before they destroy you." Moments later, the trial arena blazed with light. The guard captain, a towering alien with 4 arms and plasma blades, stood ready. Eli had only a broken wrench and a shaky grin. The gong sounded. The first strike sent Eli rolling across the floor. The second nearly disarmed him completely. He coughed, winded, ducking behind a broken pillar. "Okay," he muttered, note to self, "next time, bring a bigger wrench." The guard lunged again, but mid-swing, his armor suddenly sparked, freezing up. He stumbled, circuits shorting. Eli blinked. He could have taken the chance to run, or attack, or surrender. But instead, he shouted, "Hold still, big guy, your actuators jammed," and ran toward him. The audience gasped as Eli knelt beside his opponent, opening a panel on the guard's arm. Sparks flew. Eli rewired a circuit with the same ease as changing a battery. A moment later, the armor reactivated. "There," Eli said, patting the alien's shoulder. "You're good to go." The guard stared, speechless. The Queen stood, eyes wide. He didn't win the fight, but he fixed his enemy. Lysera whispered to herself, "He's the first one who didn't fear breaking something precious." New Moon the workshop later, Eli was placed under palace watch, but instead of a prison, he was kept in the royal workshop, surrounded by alien tech. To him, it was paradise. He tinkered, repaired drones, and occasionally asked guards for coffee. When Lysera visited, she found him lying under a hovering craft, humming softly. "You sing," she said, tilting her head. Eli slid out from beneath the machine, grinning. "Keeps me sane. Machines like music. Calms the wires." The Queen circled the room. Her movements were graceful but cautious, like a wild animal studying something unfamiliar. "My people fear me," she said quietly. "You don't." Eli shrugged. "You don't seem scary to me." Her eyes flashed. "You mock me." "No," he said softly. "You just seem tired." Lysera froze. No one had ever dared say that. For a moment, her fire dimmed. She turned away. "Every suitor I have met came for my throne, not my heart. They sought to tame me, to wield my power. I destroyed them before they could try." Eli didn't respond right away. He wiped his hands with a cloth and said gently, "Maybe you just needed someone who sees the sparks, not the fire." She looked at him, really looked at him. He wasn't trying to flatter her. He wasn't afraid. He was just being human. Something in her chest twisted. A feeling she hadn't allowed herself to feel in years. Collision the Coup. Just as silence settled, an explosion shook the entire palace. The floor trembled. Dust rained from the ceiling. Lysera's guards burst in. "Majesty, the generals, they've turned against you." Lysera's face hardened. "Traitors." Without hesitation, she summoned her blade, a living flame of pure energy. "Stay here," she commanded. But Eli grabbed her wrist. "You can't fight all of them alone." Her eyes flared. "I am the Queen of Fire." "Yeah," he said, "but even fire needs air." Before she could argue, another blast ripped through the wall. The shockwave threw them both to the ground. The ceiling cracked, collapsing above her throne. Debris fell in blinding heat. Without thinking, Eli lunged forward, wrapping his arms around her and pulling her down beneath a fallen beam. Dust and flame filled the air. For a moment, there was only silence, broken only by her heartbeat pounding against his chest. When the smoke cleared, Lysera looked up at him, this fragile, foolish human who had shielded her with his own body. Her voice trembled. "Why would you protect me?" He met her eyes, still holding her close. "Because that's what you do, when you don't want to lose someone." Her breath caught. No guard, no warrior, no suitor had ever said such words to her, not without fear, not without wanting something in return. She reached up, fingers brushing his cheek. "You risked your life for me." Eli smiled faintly. Guess I'm just bad at following orders." She stared at him for a long moment, searching his eyes, and for the first time in years, her rage faded. Her flame dimmed, not from weakness, but peace. Sunrise the silent moment the palace still burned around them. Shouts echoed in the distance, guards calling for help, rebels pushing closer. But inside that ruined hall, time slowed. Lysera sat beside Eli, her armor cracked, her crown bent. He was bleeding from a cut on his forehead, but still smiled like nothing was wrong. "You are a strange creature, human," she whispered. "Yeah," he said, chuckling softly. "You're not the first to say that." She hesitated, then asked, "What is it you desire, Eli Turner?" He looked at the burning throne and shrugged. "Honestly, I just wanted to fix my ship." For the first time since her coronation, the Queen laughed, a quiet, warm laugh that startled even her. It echoed softly through the ruined hall. Eli grinned. "There it is. You should do that more often." Her expression softened. "Perhaps, you will remind me how." The glow from the fires reflected in their eyes, red meeting gold, light meeting warmth. Two souls from different worlds, bound not by duty, but by understanding. Outside, the rebellion raged. Inside, something new had begun, fragile, impossible, and real. The Queen who once destroyed every suitor now sat beside a human mechanic who refused to bow, and for the first time in her reign, she didn't feel alone. The smoke from the palace fires curled through the crimson sky of VELYRA 9, painting it darker than before. The once majestic citadel of the Xyrathi Empire now burned with rebellion. The queen's banners were torn, her loyal guards scattered, and her throne cracked in two. But in the middle of the chaos, sat a human and a queen. Both bruised, both alive, both unwilling to leave the other behind. Gear the escaped Queen Lysera stood shakily, her golden armor scorched from the blast. Eli Turner rose beside her, brushing dust off his jacket. He coughed, squinting through the smoke. "Please tell me this isn't your normal Tuesday," he said. Lysera blinked at him. "You joke, even now." "It's a survival instinct," he replied, grinning faintly. A guard rushed into the chamber, one of the few still loyal. "Majesty, we must flee. The generals control the East Tower." Lysera's eyes burned with fury. "Let them have it. I will reclaim what's mine." Eli shook his head. "You can't fight a war in ruins. We need to move. You said your people fear you, right? Then show them something else. Show them strength without fire." She hesitated, then nodded slowly. For the first time, she didn't command, she listened. The three moved through the smoke-filled corridors. Explosions echoed outside, shaking the walls. Statues of past rulers lay shattered across the floor. Lysera glanced at him, once proud ancestors, now reminders of her own loneliness. When they reached the palace hangar, Eli stopped, staring at the half-destroyed engine room. "Oh, you've got to be kidding me," he groaned. "They blew the main conduit. Can you fix it?" Lysera asked. He smirked. "I'm a mechanic, not a miracle worker, but..." "Yeah, probably." Gear the mechanic's fix. While Lysera and the guard secured the door, Eli dove into the wreckage. Sparks flashed around him as he rewired glowing alien circuits. He worked fast, every movement precise despite the heat. Lysera watched him, her mind swirling. All her life, she had seen warriors and kings flaunt their strength, yet this human fought with patience, not power. His calm steadiness felt comforting. "Why do you help me?" she finally asked, voice low. Eli didn't look up. "Because someone should. You owe me nothing." He smiled faintly. "That's what makes it real." Lysera fell silent, eyes softening. The words felt like a balm against years of betrayal. Moments later, the engines roared to life. The hangar trembled as energy surged through the palace grid. Eli leaned against the wall, panting. "That should give your shields a boost. Keep civilians safe from the rebels' strikes." Lysera turned to him, surprised. "You protected them, instead of saving yourself." He wiped sweat from his brow. "Can't fix a world if you keep letting it break." For a long time, she said nothing. Then, softly, she whispered, "You speak like no warrior I've ever met." He grinned. "Good thing I'm not one." Crossed swords. The betrayal unfolds. Suddenly, the blast doors burst open. A dozen armored soldiers stormed in, their insignia marked with crimson scars. At their center stood General Kale, Lysera's oldest commander and now her betrayer. "Your reign ends tonight, my queen," Kale hissed. "You let a human defile our palace. You have forgotten who you are." Lysera raised her blade, her aura flaring like the sun. "I am your queen still." Kale sneered. "Then burn alone." The battle erupted instantly. Plasma bolts seared the air. Lysera moved like fire itself, every swing a flash of gold. But the odds were overwhelming. The rebels surrounded her, step by step. Eli ducked behind a console, searching for tools, anything. His heart pounded. She was fast, but she couldn't fight forever. He found a plasma torch, not a weapon, but enough to help. "Hey, metalheads!" he shouted, leaping into view. "Ever seen a human light show?" The rebels turned, momentarily confused, just in time for Eli to ignite the torch and send a blinding flare through the room. The light seared their senses. Lysera seized the moment, cutting through their formation in a single burning arc. When the light faded, the floor was littered with defeated soldiers. But Kale was still standing, and his plasma spear struck true. The beam tore through Lysera's shoulder. She staggered, flames dimming, armor cracking. Eli froze in horror. "Lysera!" he shouted. Heartbreak. The collapse. She fell to one knee, breath ragged. Kale raised his weapon again, but Eli threw himself in front of catching the blow with the torch. The impact hurled him backward. Sparks flew across the floor. Kale sneered. "A weak creature, protecting a dying queen." Eli groaned, struggling to stand. "You talk too much." Before Kale could strike again, Lysera summoned the last of her power. Her eyes flared white, her body glowing brighter than ever, and she released a shockwave that sent the general crashing into a wall. When the dust cleared, Kale was gone, unconscious or dead, no one could tell. But the queen collapsed beside Eli, flames flickering out. He caught her before she hit the ground. "Hey," he whispered, voice trembling, "stay with me. You're gonna be fine." She looked up weakly, her silver blood glowing faintly. "You defy your queen again, human." He smiled sadly. "Guess I'm not great with rules." Her eyes softened. "Why do you keep risking yourself?" Eli's voice cracked. "Because no one should have to face the dark alone." Milky Way, the hug that silenced the war as he spoke. She trembled, not from pain, but from emotion. The woman who had faced armies without flinching now shook in his arms. He pulled her closer, wrapping his arms gently around her. "You're safe now. I've got you." Her breath hitched. "You embrace me?" "Yeah," he whispered. "Sometimes fixing things starts with holding them." The guards who entered stopped dead in their tracks. The sight before them, their queen, the unbroken flame, held in a human's arms, was unthinkable. But instead of rage, they felt something else: peace. The flames in the hall dimmed. The air grew calm. The queen's aura, once wild and uncontrollable, softened into a golden glow that filled the room with warmth. Her people knelt, not out of fear, but awe. Lysera's eyes shimmered with tears. "Eli, you stilled the fire inside me." He smiled softly. "Nah, you just learned to control the heat." She laughed weakly, resting her forehead against his. "You fixed me." Outside the hangar, rebel soldiers lowered their weapons. Word spread quickly: the queen lives, and she does not burn. The war that had begun with anger ended with a single hug. Sunrise the new dawn. Days later, the palace was rebuilt, its halls glowing once more with light. The rebellion had dissolved, and peace returned to VELYRA 9. The story of the human who tamed fire with kindness spread across the stars. In the royal garden, Lysera walked beside Eli. Her arm was healed, though faint scars remained, glowing softly, like gold beneath her skin. "Your people now tell tales of me as if I am some gentle goddess," she said, half smiling. "It feels strange." Eli chuckled. "Better than being known as Queen of Flaming Rage, right?" She nudged him playfully. "Careful, human, I still have my crown." They stopped at the balcony overlooking the twin suns. The light bathed them in shades of gold and red. Lysera spoke quietly. "I have ruled for years with fear and fire. Yet you came here, by accident, and showed me another way. I do not understand how." Eli looked at her and said, "You can't lead people you're afraid to touch. You showed them strength. Now show them warmth." She turned to him, eyes soft. "And you, Eli Turner of Earth, what do you desire?" He smiled, hands in his pockets. "Honestly, just some peace and maybe a working ship. But I could stick around. Someone's got to keep your engines running." Her laughter echoed through the courtyard, light and pure. "Then stay, not as servant or suitor, but as someone who reminds me I'm more than fire." They stood together as the sun set. Her crown gleamed, his hands still stained with oil. Two beings from opposite worlds, one born to rule, one born to repair, standing side by side as equals. Shooting Star Epilogue, the legend of the hug. Years later, across the galaxies, travelers would tell the story of the human mechanic and the alien queen. They would say the queen of flames once burned worlds, until a human's arms taught her stillness. No blade, no war, no empire could achieve what a single, quiet hug did. And in the great palace of VELYRA 9, under the twin suns, a plaque would read, "He didn't conquer her. He repaired her heart." The end.